Hello, everybody. I think I've got a slight echo. Good afternoon. So I think a few of you are coming in now. You'll see just while we're waiting for others to arrive, we've just got a few slides going around that give you examples of some community projects that are happening in some of our parishes across Cambridgeshire. So just have a little look at those whilst we wait for everybody to come in. And we'd also like to ask if you're aware of a really good community project in your area, if you could just pop that in the chat to give us those examples and give a flavour of what's happening, that would be lovely. And we've got a few more joining us now. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Just to let you know that you're in the community projects workshop. So just to check that you're in the right one. Whilst we're waiting for everyone to arrive, we've just got a few slides going around on a loop on the slideshow to give you a flavour of some different community projects that we're aware of across the county, and also asking that actually if where you live you're aware of a really good community project in your area, could you just pop that in the chat box, just give us a little flavour of what's happening in different places across Cambridgeshire. Thank you. Last time we had lots of community orchards in the first round. Which was nice. And a repurposed guard room, which I thought was interesting. Oh, thank you, Anne. Apple Day. I'm hoping to add a few more now. I've joined the time bank. Brilliant. Always love a time bank. Thanks for that, Anne. We'll just give it a couple more minutes and then we'll start properly. One more minute. Seed exchange boxes, nice one. And hoping to do something for the Platinum Jubilee. Yes, looking forward to all the range of projects we're going to get this year for that. That's going to be interesting. Okay, so I think most people who are coming will have arrived now, so we'll get started. So welcome everybody. I'm Wendy Lansdowne and I'm the place coordinator for East Cambridgeshire. So I work for the County Council, but it's very much a communities and partnerships role. So and also I'm lucky to work alongside our parish councils. So today we're talking about community projects. And what we've done is based on feedback from previous years, we've kind of think that it's good to give a really good flavour of a wide variety of activity. And we've tried to do that and include a diverse geography and also a diversity in terms of the sizes of the parish councils that we're featuring. So we have got quite a packed agenda. So get ready to take on board quite a lot of information and lots of different experiences. But I hope it's one that you'll find rich and interesting. What we'd like to ask you to do as well is if you could just put any questions that occur to you as the presenters are speaking into the chat box, that would be really good. And then my colleague Sophie will draw on those when we do a panel session at the end of the 6 speakers speaking. So with no further ado, I will ask Natasha, if you wouldn't mind, to change over, and you have already, premonition, to the main slides. And with only slight trepidation, because we've had a few glitches with tech and with Terry's audio, I'm hoping that we're going to start off with Terry from Wisbeach, who's the clerk at Wisbeach Town Council, who's going to share some of the work we've been doing there. Terry,
can you hear me?
We can. Over to you.
Lovely, right. Okay, thank you for the introduction, Wendy. As Wendy has said, I'm Terry Jordan. I'm the clerk to Wisbech Town Council. Before I talk to you briefly about how the Town Council supports the local economy with initiatives and projects, just a bit of context about the town and the council. So let slides move forward. Right, so a bit of context. We're the most northern town in the county, bordering onto West Norfolk, with a population of around about 33,000. Community is very diverse, with high levels of immigration from Eastern Europe over mainly about the last 13 years. Traditionally a low-wage economy based in employment and associated activities like canning and haulage. We have a number of challenges, including deprivation, but also a number of opportunities. We have 18 councillors, all are elected, no co-options, and we have a £450,000 budget approximately for this year, which realises a Band D equivalent precept. So supporting the local economy, as I said, that's something the council thinks is very important. The market, to start with, taken over from the District Council in 2012. Over that time, we've increased the trading days from 2 to 7. We have low rents, so anybody can give it a go. We think it's a good way for people to try a hobby and turn it into a business and to assist startups. We've introduced car boot activities with the market on a Thursday and a Sunday, and we have evidence that, at least in terms of the Sunday activity, it has generated jobs within other retail within the town centre because of the additional footfall. We will be trialling more specialist markets. We trialled twilight markets in the run-up to Christmas, and we're evaluating the success in terms of whether we move those forward more generally. And we are convinced that the market trading activity adds to the footfall in the town centre. In addition to traditional trading on the market, we also sometimes supplement that with other activities such as cooking demonstrations, with the message that people can access or purchase the necessary goods from market traders. And in terms of cooking demonstrations, the photo here shows one of which was supported by last year's Mayor and Deputy Mayor, who both got involved in the cooking activity. Allied to the market activities, we obviously manage and own the marketplace itself. We have plans to enhance that with a new floorscape, new bins, and this time they'll include recycling and general waste, new bench seating. We're going to be removing the car parking, which takes place on some days of the week, and introducing pedestrianisation to make it safer and more comfortable for shoppers. We have funding of approximately £450,000, which has included monies from the County Council's Communities Capital Fund and the Market Towns money from the Combined Authority, as well as some Town Council funding. And our aim is to make the marketplace a more attractive place for people to spend time. Hopefully that means they'll spend money, and it will also act as a draw to other town centre retail, not just to the market itself. Linked to the enhancement scheme, we're also there again with funding from the Combined Authority. We're looking to work with the Chamber of Commerce to introduce a new shop watch radio scheme. We've also secured further funding from the CPCA to install footfall counters, so we can have evidence in terms of the level of as it says, footfall in the town centre. And it will also, our scheme will also supplement the £1.9 million that's come from the Heritage Lottery Fund to regenerate dilapidated buildings in the High Street. We also use the marketplace for community events and festivals. One of those festivals or events is our Wisbech Day, where we turn the town centre into a seaside. And this photograph shows that. And obviously people coming to that space helps to put money into the local economy in the area. Also, in terms of attracting people into the town, we need to meet their basic welfare needs, and there's probably no more of a basic welfare need than public toilets. We've been working with a shopping centre in the town centre which closed their toilets about 3 years ago to get them reopened. Under the proposal, we will staff them, we will meet all the costs of utilities, maintenance, etc. There'll be a net cost of approximately £30,000 for the local taxpayer, which will necessitate a precept increase in the next financial year, and that's currently being budgeted for. We believe it'll have a very positive impact on footfall in the town, not only from local shoppers, but also visitors to the town. And it will also help to retain local bus services. There's been messages coming forward from bus companies that without public toilets in the town, especially in the bus station where these are located, that they're threatening to withdraw services if they can't provide basic welfare needs for their bus drivers. Other types of support for the local economy in the town centre, we lease an area of land from the County Council, which we provide additional car parking in addition to the District Council car parking provision. We do a Christmas lighting scheme each year in the town. We work with partners, including those listed in the slide, in terms of an annual Christmas fair, which is a market plus associated activity. And we've also accessed money from the government's Welcome Back Fund to run other activities. There are a number of projects that support directly or indirectly the economy, and those are listed on that particular slide. I won't go through it. And our ambition is to make Whitton a better place for people who live in the town, work in the town, visit the town, or invest in the town. We believe that a healthy economy contributes to that ambition, particularly given the poor public transport connectivity experienced by the town. We need both employment opportunities and a good offer in terms of retail and commercial services, hence our wishing to support the local economy. How do we do things? We work collaboratively, we support local groups, we look at all opportunities to access third-party funding. We try to achieve linkages between projects, as have been listed on the previous slide, and we take a proactive approach to communications, marketing and publicity. Tell people what you're doing and get them on side. Final slide is my contact information for anybody who might want to sort of chat through things at a later date. But say thank you for listening, and I'll hand you back to Wendy.
Thank you very much, Terry, for a jam-packed 5 minutes. That was wonderful. Next, we're going to go over, across and down a little bit, I'm thinking, from Wisbech over to Litterport. And we have a verbal presentation now from Jo Webber, who's District Councillor and also Parish Councillor of Litterport Parish Council. And she's going to speak from the Litterport point of view.
Yeah, thanks, Wendy. Hi everybody. I'm Jo Webber and I am a parish and district councillor for Litterport. Litterport is a large parish with around a population of around 9,500 people. We have 15 parish councillors on our council. I'm also the operational lead for the Litterport Parish Council Wellbeing Team, and this is a specific project that I want to talk to you about in this session today, as it's a recent project we've started up. The project to develop a wellbeing team came initially from our drive to secure a community youth worker and new youth facilities, in addition to the loss of funding for our time bank coordinator. The well-being of our residents has always been our primary concern, and with this in mind, our aim was to improve the support network for the vulnerable and at risk in our community. A public meeting held in our village hall back in the summer of 2018, which was organised due to an increase in complaints about antisocial behaviour, confirmed to us that many residents felt that the facilities available for youth-related activities were not adequate, and young people did not have enough to do in their leisure time out of school. The statistics on low-level crime and antisocial behaviour and the general unrest in the community proved to us that supporting and guiding our young people needed to be our top priority. It's important to note that we've had a successful all-inclusive youth group in Litterport for around 7 or 8 years, which is run solely by volunteers and funded by grants. They've also always been supported by the parish council, but the support that the youth group can offer to our young people is obviously limited, and they cannot provide outreach work or have high-level access to professional networks or partners. At a similar time to these youth-related issues being raised, funding ceased for our time bank coordinator. And again, that was just run by volunteers, and we could see that there were gaps in support for our older residents, with no central contact signposting or to evaluate and progress new initiatives or activities. The first COVID lockdown also highlighted to us the number of older residents that we had who live on their own and often have no local support network. Using the Think Communities approach to place-based working, we focused our minds on how we could provide support to both our older and our younger residents. And we committed to researching funding opportunities to provide a new youth facility, a community youth worker, and a community linked worker for older people that we would know collectively as our wellbeing team. We firstly needed to be very clear on what we actually needed and why we needed it, what the impact would be on our residents, our desired outcomes, what the sustainability of that would be going forward, and also the potential funding streams that would be available to us. So we spent a lot of time talking to residents, talking to our community groups, and also our professional organisations and agencies who work with our residents. We also use resources available to us, such as Cambridgeshire Insight, to review our parish profile, which is an invaluable resource as it covers key statistics on population, economy, housing, children and young people, crime deprivation, health and the environment. Statistical evidence is essential when deciding on the need for a new project such as this, and it is also a requirement for many grant applications. So reviewing this information early on is incredibly helpful in producing a robust grant application. We also connected with other parishes in the county who were running similar projects to seek advice from them. And we also received a lot of support from the Community Safety Partnership, the police and council officers, both from East Cambs District Council and Cambridgeshire County Council. Our initial intention was to obtain funding via a Section 106 developer contribution for a building, a youth building, and a combination of grant funding and parish reserves for the 2 new part-time roles. However, we were fortunate that during 2020, funding streams became available via Cambridgeshire County Council, which were the Think Communities Capital Fund and the Innovate and Cultivate Fund, and we were able to make 3 applications that were all successful. The new building is still in the planning stages and we hope to start this in February. However, our 2 new members of staff have been recruited and both commenced in 2021. In spite of COVID lockdowns, we are already starting to see a positive impact on the community, as Catherine and Joe, our 2 new recruits, are now providing the vital link between support agencies and our residents. Joined up thinking and working collaboratively is key to forming an integrated community-based support service. We've been able to improve the flow of information for not only our residents, but the specialist agencies that work within our community, ensuring that there is a synergy and reduced duplication of work. And we have a close working relationship with tier councils and the police. We continue to monitor and review our progress and hope to secure further funding in the future for additional standalone projects, which will work together with our wellbeing team. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jo. Again, a huge amount within that of personal experience, which I know is useful for others. So thank you very much for that. We're now going across to Hunts. And next up, we have Ken Fergus from Colne Parish Council, who's going to tell us about green spaces work they've been doing there. Welcome, Ken.
Thank you very much, Wendy. Good afternoon, everyone. Ken Fergus, Colne Parish Council. Back in 2018, the Parish Council was given about a chunk of 2.5 acres of land in the village as part of a Section 106 agreement. And we realised immediately that this was a unique opportunity to create something really special. A hell of a lot of work was needed initially to clear the land of brambles and ivy, and you can get an idea of that on the left-hand side of this slide. On the right-hand side, you can see an old variety of apple tree that came to light after we'd cleared a lot of the rubbish around it. We knew it was key early on to get involvement from the local community. And to that end, we put a leaflet through every door in the village explaining what we were doing. We held open days in 2019 and 21 with photographs of what had been done, drawings of what we were going to do, and that included aerial views that we commissioned a drone to take. We took villagers on guided tours around the land, pointing out what we were doing. We had a competition to name what we'd up till then called the amenity land. And it was Colne Jubilee Woodland that came out on top. What have we done then? We've planted over 1,000 bluebell bulbs and over 250 trees in the last couple of years. We've laid 500 metres of footpath to make it accessible for people. We've created a community garden, a picnic area with a tunnel slide for small children. We've mounted owl and bat boxes on telegraph poles, and there's an information board with details of what can be seen around. And we've created 10 allotments. Here you can see them. We identified a water supply with help of a local dowser, and a solar-powered pump was installed feeding a water tank and some underground piping leading to standpipes on the allotments. We've involved lots of different groups of people, and here are some of them. First of all, we've got the National Lottery Community Fund that we applied to for a grant, and they gave us £8,300. The National Allotment Society helped us enormously with how to set up and manage the allotments. Local farmers, businesses, builders gave their time for nothing often. And there's a group called the Traditional Orchard Group that helped us very much decide what trees could and should be kept. Here's a slide just talking about lessons that we've learnt. Engage with all your relevant bodies as early as possible. They can be a great source of free advice. Be prudent with the budget, especially in the early days, because costs can really run away with you. Look around for grants, lots of them are available. Most importantly, engage with and listen to your local community. And finally, don't do it during a pandemic. Thanks very much, Wendy.
Thank you very much, Ken. I don't think you could be blamed for not being able to predict that a pandemic was coming. Thank you. Staying in Huntingdonshire, we are now going to go to Fen Stanton and welcome Kevin Mitchell to tell us about what Fen Stanton Parish Council have been doing in relation to flood planning.
Hi, everybody. As I said, Kevin Mitchell from Fen Stanton Parish Council. For those of you who don't know Fen Stanton, we're a medium-sized parish, about 3,500 population, caught between the boundaries of Huntingdon and South Cambs. So sort of we tend to have to do a lot of our own stuff, basically. When we had the floods last year, now Fen Stanton historically has always had floods, but we realised very rapidly that this was very different, and that we had water coming from directions we'd never seen before. And equally, we had water sort of flooding in places that shouldn't flood, according to the flood plans and everything else. So as a group, Parish Council, together with a number of parish members, put together a working party to, first of all, try to understand what had happened and why, and then probably more importantly, what we needed to do going forward to manage the situation. And so a lot of the work we did was initially around data capture, but we worked closely with the higher authorities, particularly the likes of County Council, as League Flood Authority, Highways, Environment Agency, and one or two other people like Severn Trent, to try to understand what had actually happened. As a group, we also decided we needed to capture all the information and provide a detailed resource for the local parish people, so that they had fair warning of what was going to happen in the future, but also they had other resources they could utilise. So what we put together was a dedicated website, and it's available there if anybody wants to have a look at it, whereby we can now look at what's happening, what's coming, but equally what we need to do as a group to manage things going forward. So we're using the likes of things like Parish Online. We've put together maps and resources on potential flooding, flood maps, looking at the Zone 2, Zone 3 situation, and mapped all that for the parish. We've also put together a detailed contact list of who to talk to as and if and when, both before, during and after a flooding event. And that's, again, sort of available to anybody who wants to use that. So therefore, we've got a resource we can actually rely on and go back to. Similarly, we wanted individuals within the parish to try and take as much responsibility for their own actions as possible. So what we've actually added is a resource around other guides and information, whether you're an individual, whether you're a business, whether you're a road user, a walker, or whatever. So there's, again, a lot more detail there around the whole, what can I do as an individual? And perhaps most pertinently, looked at a protocol for what happens when we have the next flood. So what the Parish Council can do, how they can be contacted, how we can engage with the community, looking at a flood plan in terms of what we need to do in terms of identifying key points in the community, also looking at vulnerable people, looking at the likelihood of where things are going to flood, and also the resources we're going to need to provide information. So again, it's a detailed resource. Very, very quick whistle-stop tour, but if anybody wants to know more about that, feel free to contact. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kevin. That's really, really useful. And yeah, I'm sure we're all learning a lot. I certainly was. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague, Tommy Kelly, in the Think Communities team, and he's going to share about the signing the Armed Forces Covenant and how that relates to parish councils. Just a reminder before I do that if questions are occurring to you as our speakers are speaking, then please do pop those in the chat box and we'll come back to those for the panel. Okay, thank you. Over to you, Tommy.
Thank you, Wendy. Good afternoon, everybody. Tommy Kelly, Armed Forces Covenant Officer for Cambs and Peterborough. Right, yes. So this afternoon is talking about, or my session is talking about the Armed Forces Covenant, understanding, supporting and celebrating the Armed Forces community. We've done some work with a number of parish and town councils in the county, and we're going to touch on Chatteris Town Council and Whitton on the Hill Parish Council during this presentation. So the project's objectives. This work is part of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough's Armed Forces Covenant Board's action plan, and highlighting the Armed Forces community in Covenant to parish and town councils is important. It's very important because these councils can make a real difference due to their very local knowledge, connections and networks within the towns and parishes that they serve. So the objectives for the town and parish councils are to be aware that there is sometimes a hidden community that can be supported through small changes in policy or practice, demonstrate a commitment to the Armed Forces community by signing the Armed Forces Covenant and making public pledges of support, and to be aware of and support the work that is happening at district, city and county levels. So who are the Armed Forces community? So they're not just serving personnel, but they're reservists or territorials, as we used to call them, and veterans and their families, including the immediate family of service personnel and veterans who have died, whether or not that death has any connection with their service. So why is this work important? The Armed Forces community are usually more visible around Armistice Day and Remembrance Sunday, although can become less conspicuous throughout the rest of the year. Disadvantages due to service, issues around mental and physical health, and difficulty with integrating back into civilian life can remain, and it is essential for town and parish councils to be aware so that they can support this sometimes hidden community. Knowing where to signpost the individuals or family is also very important, as there are a high number of Armed Forces community support agencies, and just a few listed at the bottom there, but there are literally hundreds. So does this apply to your parish or town council? Well, it does. Well, it can, because we have in Cambridgeshire reserve units, two reserve units, so territorial units. We have 3 regular military units, Bassingbourn, RAF Whitton, which is a tri-service base, and RAF Wittering. We have 9 veteran breakfast and brunch clubs. We have 47 Legion branches. We have over 50 Army, Air, Sea and Marine cadet detachments, and we have over 1168 service children in education in Cambridgeshire. So there is quite a high number. It's thought that up to 10% of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough's population fall into the Armed Forces community somehow. So what's happening at Chatteris Town Council? Well, Chatteris Town Council are planning to sign the Armed Forces Covenant very soon, so early 2022. And there is a list here. I'm not going to go through them all because on the last presentation it seemed to take up forever. But there are measures that the councils can take to support the Armed Forces. One of them, a particularly good one, is appointing a lead officer or councillor to be the Armed Forces lead for the parish council. And then they would get an automatic link in with me. I would support, I would train up, and I would help the parish understand how they can support the Armed Forces community. I'll move on from there. Okay, so Chatteris Town Council, as I said, are very close to signing the Armed Forces Covenant. I'll just read a bit here. So at the October 2021 meeting of Chatteris Town Council, councillors considered the letter that Tommy Kelly, Armed Forces Covenant officer, had sent to them about the Armed Forces Covenant and decided they would support it. And Joanne Milton, the town council clerk, says, with Tommy's support, we have worked through the template document and are finalising our pledges of support for the Armed Forces community. Since starting this work, we have learnt that most former service personnel and members of the Armed Forces community transition back to civilian life without any major problems, but we are aware, or are now aware, that some members of the Armed Forces community can face a range of issues, sometimes linked to their service. We are working to look at how we can support any members of the community by understanding the range of support locally and nationally that is available, and are very pleased that we will be the first town council in Cambridgeshire to sign. Okay, so the next slide, moving on, is about Whitton on the Hill Parish Council. As I'm sure most of you will be aware, Whitton on the Hill are pretty much so linked closely to RF Whitton that it's very obvious why they would sign, whereas Chatteris, not so obvious why they would sign, apart from the slide previous with all the numbers on it explaining that the community is vast throughout the county. So Sam Sharp, Whitton on Hill Parish Council Chair, says, as many know, Whitton on Hill are close neighbours with RAF Whitton, who have all 3 armed forces stationed here. The council felt this was exceptionally important due to their association with RAF Whitton to sign the Armed Forces Covenant, not only to support the work the council are currently undergoing, but also to protect their relationship for future projects and appointments. Working alongside Tommy Kelly from Cambs County Council, the council unanimously resolved to sign the covenant to ensure that all those who serve or have served in the armed forces and their families are treated fairly. Meeting with the new station commander RF Whitton, Chairman Sam Sharp discussed their future projects and hopes for further partnerships whilst they both signed on the dotted line. Since signing the covenant, the council have received positive comments regarding their support for the armed forces community. I'm definitely out of time there. The next slide has my contact details on it. Please feel free to contact me. And I didn't mention the previous time that I presented this, but there is no direct cost to signing the Armed Forces Covenant either. It's just making a pledge and a commitment to the Armed Forces community within your parish or town council. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tommy. And yes, good to know that last fact. Also, I just found the kind of scale of what you were talking about important. I'm going to remember that fact about 10% of the population being part of the armed forces community. It helps really kind of just set the picture, doesn't it? And it's good to see as well that we've got one of the stars of your presentation in the attendees today. So welcome, Samantha. It's good to have you with us. And I noticed that you're saying you're happy to speak to people about it as well, which is really good. It's good to see those connections happening in the chat. So thank you all for making good use of this time and the connections. At that point, we're going to move over now to talk importantly about fundings. We know that's something that is very, very important to everyone. And we have both Kat from Support Cambridgeshire and also my colleague Leanne from the from the Cultivate Fund here today to tell us more about those two things. So firstly, Deputy Chief Exec of Support Cambridgeshire, Catherine Shepherdson, over to you.
I'm not the Deputy of Support Cambs, it's Hunts Forum.
Sorry.
I'd love to have that kind of job title, but it's not actually the case. Hello everyone. Yeah, so like Wendy said, my name's Kat Shepherdson and I am the Deputy CEO of Hunts Forum, and Hunts Forum along with CCBS make up Support Cambridgeshire. And that what is Support Cambridgeshire? So Support Cambridgeshire is a county-wide free, I use that word, service to support communities, initiatives and non-for-profits across the county with all sorts of things. And we offer free training, events, information on our website, which is open to everyone who wants to find out that information as such. And one of the questions that we get asked all the time is around funding. So that's a big element of any community project, is how do you get that money? Where do you go to find that money? And can you help us along the way? And the answer is yes, we could do all of those things. But how do you find where those pots of money are? And the answer to that is SC4C, or Support Cambridgeshire for Communities, if you don't want to use the acronym. And this is an online free to access database which you log into and you search for lots of different types of pots of money that are out there. So this includes local pots of money, so anything that's coming out through Cambridgeshire Community Foundation, but also national pots of money, so all sorts of Garfield Western, all sorts of other things. And the idea is that you go on there, you either browse or you search for something in particular. So there's really good search facilities on there where you can search for something like youth or something what you know what you're doing, so you're looking to fit it in. It might be that actually you don't really know what you're doing, so you're just going to search for funding which is available to town and parish councils. So there's also that option on there. So you can do all that search, you can save, you can go back and you find all this information out by using that portal. So that is our main access, all opportunity for you to find out that information. You can also then attend our training, which allows you to find out more about funding applications and stuff like that. We do that across the year. If you become a member of CCVS or Hunts Forum, you can also access more training and so on, but there is free services out there as well. The other thing that we do are county-wide events, and here's a sneak peek of the March one that's coming out. It hasn't completely been agreed by everyone, so that's why there's a big thing across the middle, because I can't let you know too much quite yet. But we have 4 events happening over 4 days. 2 of them are going to be about large speakers, national speakers, talking about their funding opportunities. So we're looking at National Lottery, we're looking at Garfield West, those types of really big pots of money. You're also going to have a surgery, so you can have 20 minutes with the designer of the search portal, who will help you to do your own search. So if you are new to all of this, you go on there, you don't know where you're going, then keep yourself in the loop with support cams, because we will allow you to have a 20-minute search with Matt, who knows everything and anything around that database. And then the final event will be some training about fundraising. So this information will hopefully be released in the next coming weeks. So do please keep an eye on the Support Cambridgeshire website and our Twitter account, and Hunts Forum CCVS is contact details. I'm going to put my details now into the chat. Please feel free, if you've got any questions or anything, can't find something I've just spoken about, please do make contact with me. Thanks. I'm going to pass over to Leanne now.
Hello, my name's Leanne. I'm Leanne Parrott. I'm the Strengthening Communities Officer at the County Council, and my main job is the coordinating the Innovate and Cultivate Fund. I'm going to talk to you today about the Cultivate Fund specifically, as we are discontinuing the Innovate side of things. So those of you who are aware of Innovate and Cultivate, focus on Cultivate from here on in. So the Cultivate Fund offers grants of £2,000 to £15,000 for projects that support our most vulnerable residents, so vulnerable adults, children and families in Cambridgeshire. And you can apply for funding for up to 2 years. Be aware that any project proposal has to demonstrate that it will reduce pressure on council services by supporting those vulnerable groups that are either receiving some sort of support from the council or are likely to at some stage. All projects also have to be new or build on some sort of existing project, but continuation funding isn't allowed. Public sector bodies such as district, town and parish councils are highly encouraged to apply for these grants. They're also available to the voluntary sector, so voluntary groups, community groups and social enterprises. I'm going to focus now on Cultivate Ideas. These were developed to inspire people and to help people to understand what sort of projects that meet fund criteria and to provide guidance on setting up those specific projects. You don't need to apply. Cultivate grant isn't limited to these ideas, but they're a really great start, and there's some really great projects you could apply for that we've prepared guidance on. So they were specifically designed for smaller community groups and parishes as projects that work well for that, for smaller projects to work well for communities. So the grants help to get these Cultivate project ideas off the ground. They don't cover the full costs of the project, and match funding is usually required for each of these models. I should also state that all these projects are expected to have some sort of sustainability plan in place from the start, as we don't offer continuation funding beyond the grant period. So do be aware. The guidance that we produced, it supports applicants to go through the steps needed to get a project proposal together and also get the project off the ground. And it really focuses on the importance of public consultation. This was mentioned by some of the other speakers. So understanding if these specific projects are actually suitable for your communities, and also what do communities want, what do they need, and what sort of assets and resources do you already have within your community. So the skills, the enthusiasm, and physical assets such as buildings or tools. really, really important to have that understanding before you apply for a grant. The guidance also offers you potential costs relating to setting up and running these projects. It's not exact, but it gives you a really good idea of how much you're committing to over the years. One thing that's great about these Cultivate ideas is that we have a package of support that comes with them. So we've got organisations such as Age UK or the Men's Sheds Associations on board to help you to get your project off to a good start. They can offer you some training and some mentoring and other tools as well. So applying for a grant to set up a Cultivate Idea project, it doesn't guarantee that you will be awarded that funding. You do have to put in a good application, and we strongly urge everyone to seek pre-application advice. We offer formal sessions about 6 weeks in advance of each of the deadlines. So please do that before applying. So the next few slides are just going to highlight 3 of the Cultivate project ideas, the first 3 on the list that parishes have been awarded grants to run. And I just wanted to note as well that we are developing new guidance on 3 new Cultivate ideas, which are care enterprise, feed poverty, and youth peer mentoring. So just quickly, mobile warden schemes. There's a brief introduction to what those are. With these projects, you can apply for up to £12,000 over 2 years. As I said, match funding is going to be required for that, as it won't cover the full cost of setting up a brand new scheme. Age UK has come on board to support new projects, whether they're independently run or you go in, you start a project via Age UK, because they can also provide ongoing support for all warden schemes. And I just wanted to highlight that Grantchester and Fen Stanton parish councils, they have received grants for mobile warden schemes in their villages, but they have been as part of multi-parish schemes, which is a really great way of starting a new mobile warden scheme if you can link up with an existing scheme. Time banks, we've had Sutton, Sawston and Godmanchester set up new time banks using Innovate and Cultivate funding. Sutton and Sawston specifically went via the Cultivate project ideas route. And they have received, all of them have received support from the Time Banking Partnership. And as it says here, you can apply for up to £15,000 over 2 years to help fund a coordinator. And then finally, a community youth worker. We've had, this is just one of our very newest Cultivate models, and you can apply for up to £15,000 to cover the cost of a part-time community youth worker. Mostly it's designed to join an existing youth group that may, for example, be volunteer run currently, and if you want a paid post. Litterport, so Jo Weber here from Litterport Parish Council, she applied for one of these and was offered a grant for a community youth worker for their youth initiative that they have at Litterport, and it works within the wider well-being team there. So just to highlight, we've got the Innovate and Cultivate Fund. It is now undergoing a change. It will probably change its name over the next few months. The last round of the existing Innovate and Cultivate Fund, the deadline for that is the 1st of February, but the Cultivate Fund will carry on beyond that, we hope, fingers crossed, and will launch in spring or early summer this year. You can find out plenty of more information on the web pages that are on this slide, and I'll pop them into the chat as well. Okay, thanks very much. That's me done.
Super. Thank you very much, Leanne. That's wonderful. What I'm going to aim to hopefully do now is to move all of our speakers over into the main box so you can see us all. Hopefully that's worked. If I could ask everyone to turn your cameras on as well, please, that would be great. And then Sophie, have you has been keeping an eye on all the questions in the chat box. Could you let us know what we need to answer?
Yep, sorry. Am I off mute? Because it keeps moving on my screen.
Yeah, you're all good.
Fantastic. So there were a few things that came out. So really early on, Yasmin, you shared loads of great community ideas, but you were also really interested to find out more about Apple Day and the Seed Exchange. So you were interested to find out that. Cheryl, you really would like to team up with Anna and connect after the session. Anna, it seems like you are very much in demand. Lots of people wanting to connect with you after this session. There was a question about funding. So Lewis, you asked about the Innovate and Cultivate grant, and you said that it was brilliant in setting up your time bank several years ago. Now that's almost fully supported by the Parish Council. Most funding will not give grants to keep projects running. Does anyone know of funding that's available for this, available for the sustainability of projects? There was a couple of questions about the military covenant. It sounds like actually in the chat you've probably all sorted yourself out in terms of getting that information, but just in case, Tommy, there's anything you can add to that. Hilary wanted to talk about how available local data about service families and veterans was to find. And I know you've already linked up with Sam, but I wondered if there was anything else you wanted to add to that, Tommy. And it looked like, Susan, you were looking to connect people as well. So please do use those spaces after the sessions.
Super, thank you. Sophie, shall we start with the last one first and come to you, Tommy, to ask if there's anything you'd like to add in terms of local data about services for families of veterans and where to find that?
Yeah, it's a very tough one. Looking forward to the census data when it's eventually here. Although it was based on veterans rather than armed forces community members, which was helpful but not totally helpful. There's a lot of avenues we can go down looking for this sort of data. One would be keying in with education to see where we have children that are applicable for service pupil premium, and then hooking in with the charities and the support groups that are within, each of the areas. So the breakfast clubs and the then we've also got like RBL and SAFA. I have some good connections with them, but data is quite a tough one, and I'm doing some work to look at the best ways to dig out this data. It is quite a toughie, but the census data is going to give us a good indication of sort of collections of veterans and potentially armed forces community families.
Super, thank you, Tommy, and not too long to wait now for the census data, hopefully. So,
yeah, looking forward to it.
Thank you. And then we had the question from Lois regarding so the Time Bank had initially had funding from the Innovate and Cultivate Fund, but was wondering, actually, Lois was asking about then keeping projects running, and is there, do we know of any funding that's available for that kind of once up and running sustainability stuff? Kat, is it okay to come to you?
Yes. So this is a really interesting question, and as Support Cambridgeshire, we have an infrastructure and funders network where this was brought up around funders only funding starting up things and not carrying things on. And some of the funders came back to us and said, well, actually, that's not actually true. So if I'm correct in thinking that the Lottery Community Foundation, they say that they will continue to fund on something that is already set up with extra funding. The thing you need to think about with applications for funders is that they are going to have an endpoint at some point. So it's about trying to review other places as such, because actually, unless you have an income from something, you are always going to be looking for that next pot, and that's just an aspect of our sector, really, which isn't great. But what it is. Otherwise, having a look on the IDOCS database, I think there is a search button. There's so many bits of search buttons on there where you can have a look at kind of core costs. And it is a conversation that is being happening with people around funders actually doing more ongoing costs and core costs rather than it having to always be nice kind of picture happy type of funding as such. So yes, there is things out there. Apart from the community foundation, not community foundation, the lottery community. Then I'm not sure of anything else that comes to mind. But yes, there are people out there. Sorry, that's a babbling.
It's not Friday.
There was another suggestion in the chat as well, just to bring your attention to, from Stephanie, who said, Lois, take a look at the East Cambridgeshire Community Fund. She's popped the link in there, which she thinks might be useful also.
Super, thank you. Sophie, was there other questions amongst your initial ones that what I've missed that were specifically for our speakers? Or
no, I think the other opportunities really were, and as I say, you've all been absolutely brilliant in the chat, because everyone's just said, oh, let's connect, and made plans to get together. So I don't think we need to facilitate any of that. It's just all happened really organically. Oh, no, sorry, there was the Apple Day, although emails have already been shared. Katie's already on it in terms of getting in touch with Yasmin. I don't know if there's anything else that any of you want to add to that, probably in the chat there. But again, it seems like you guys have sorted that out. You're connecting outside of this, so that's brilliant.
That's wonderful. So thank you all very much. That's brilliant. And I have to say as well, sorry, just wonderful to see hear, Anna, that you're here and that you're the new Time Bank coordinator for Somersham. I'm very happy that I also sit on the Time Banking Partnership, and I'm hoping that you can make it on Monday when we have our next meeting, but I'll email you separately about that. One last question for any of our panelists who would like to answer is, if you were to give a top tip to anyone thinking of starting a community project, what would it be? And hands up if you would like to answer that question.
I'll let Jo go because I went first time.
Okay, Jo, then Ken. And yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, well, Kat and I had sort of something similar to say last time, but basically, as somebody who's applied for funding, I'd say make sure you do your research and use all the statistics and support that's available to you at an early stage, as it will help you with a much more robust application. So, you know, talk to council officers, talk to councillors at tiered councils, and get them to give you support. And things like the Cambridgeshire Insight website, with all the data that's on there that profiles your parish, is really, really helpful. So just do all that legwork first, because it's not guaranteed, as Leanne said, that you will actually get a grant. But if you do all that work first, it's more likely, because you meet the criteria that's there, basically.
Good tip. Thank you, Jo. And then can we come to you, Ken, for your top tip? Oh, you're still on mute. Oh, do we need to invite you to unmute? Just a second. We'll invite you. You should be able to click on your screen when you get invited. We're on tenterhooks, I have to tell you. Have you got an invitation come up? No? Let's try again. That's very strange. I'm sorry, Ken. I think we're going to have to ask you to pop your suggestion. Oh, try one more. Yes, try again. Can you try speaking now, Ken?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Right. One quick piece of advice, and it's fairly obvious perhaps, but get in touch with the local community very early on, and use also all the channels at your disposal, whether that's village hall meetings, leaflets through doors, Facebook, all those sorts of things. You can try 5 different channels, communication channels, and you'll still miss people. So try another one, and keep at it all the time. That's it.
So very good advice. Thank you, Ken. I'm pleased we managed to unmute you. It was important. And I think it's probably best if we stop at that point with the questions, so that we finish on time, if not a minute or two early. And then it just really falls to me to thank all of our speakers who've very generously shared their experience, knowledge, and given us, I think, a really rich experience from across the county this afternoon. So thank you for that. I did just want to mention as well, I'm just going to put a link into the chat box, because there's also a parish newsletter that is available, and that's the sign up, the subscribe link that I've just put in there if you would like to sign up for that comes from the County Council. And also to let you know that once the conference is finished, which it is very nearly now, you'll be able to download all of the materials from the workshops and put them, they'll be in the resource centre on this site, which will continue to be available for 30 days. So thank you, everyone. Thank you very much to all of you for joining us as well, and for engaging so fully in the session. It's really pleasing to see people connecting and sharing their own experience at the same time. If we'd been more confident with the tech, we'd have had you all speaking and joining us as well. But it's still brilliant to have the connections in the chat. So thank you for that. Thank you to, like I say, to all the speakers, and to my two colleagues, Natasha and Sophie, who have done a brilliant work behind the scenes to make it all work as well today. So that is pretty much the end of the conference for the day, but I do need to let you know that all of the market information booths are still open until 4:30, so feel free to join those if you would like to. And if you do have any feedback or suggestions that you'd like to pop into the chat so that we can do even better next year in terms of workshops, this is very specifically about this workshop, then please do that. And we are going to finish just a few minutes early. So thank you very much on behalf of the whole conference, and we hope you've enjoyed your day today.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Bye.